The work done by a force to move a particle over a distance d is defined using the dot product between the force and distance vector. And this is for a simple case where the force does not depend on the position of the particle and a particle is displaced over a straight line. So using the definition of the dot product, which is a product of the magnitude of both vectors by the cosine of the angle between them, well, as we've seen, f cosine theta is the magnitude of the orthogonal projection of vector f in the direction of vector d. So in this case, because the angle between the vectors is acute, then the work done by the force is positive. And note that it's the parallel component of the force that does work on the particle to move it over that distance. So as we can see, when the force is perpendicular to the distance vector, well, the work done by the force is 0. Because as you can imagine, when projecting that force onto the distance vector, it's going to be a point. And for the yellow force here, if we project it in the direction of the distance vector, it's going to act against the distance vector, and therefore in this case, the work done by the force is negative. And here is another example where the work done by the force is positive. And basically the sign of the work done by the force is dictated by cosine theta. The work done by a force F to move a particle over an infinitesimal displacement dr is defined using the dot product. So that's equal to the infinitesimal change in work. So therefore, to move the particle over some distance along a curved path, we break up this path into infinitesimal segments. So integrating both sides of this equation gives us the work done by the force over that distance. And note that in this case the force can also be a function of the position of the particle. So if we visualize the work done by the force in one dimension to move a particle from a position of xa to xb, where the force is a function of x, well, we can see that the work done by the force is the area under the curve. And note that in this case we're modeling the object as a particle. A block is dragged along a surface using a massless cable as shown, and a tensile force Ft has a magnitude of 3 newtons, and the kinetic friction force has a magnitude of 2 newtons. And we've drawn a free body diagram, and we're asked to determine the work done by each force if the block moves a distance of 4 meters. Well, the work done by the force of weight is equal to the work done by the normal force, which is 0 joules, because these forces are perpendicular to the distance vector. Now the work done by the tensile force is equal to the magnitude of the tensile force multiplied by the magnitude of the distance vector, which is 4, cosine of the angle between them, which is equal to 12 root 3 on 2, or 6 root 3 joules. And the work done by the friction force is equal to 2 by 4 by cosine 180 degrees, so we get a negative here, and that's equal to minus 8 joules. A ball with a mass of 2 kilos is rolled up a frictionless plane, and we're asked to find the work done by all forces if it travels 3 meters up the plane. So I've drawn in the force of weight and the normal force. And the work done by the normal force is 0 joules because it's always perpendicular to the displacement vector. Now for the force of weight, we can resolve it into tangent components and normal components to the plane, or we can use a dot product directly to evaluate the work done by the force of weight. So by the dot product, that's equal to the magnitude of the force of weight, which is the mass of the ball by gravity, and multiplied by the magnitude of the distance vector, which is 3 meters, and that's multiplied by the cosine of the angle between the two vectors, which is cosine 120 degrees. So what we obtain is 2g by 3 by minus a half, or minus 3g joules. Consider Newton's second law and the velocity and acceleration vectors in multiple dimensions. Well, the one-dimensional analogues of these equations are as follows. And now we can eliminate dt between these equations. And then substitute for ax into Newton's second law. And if we separate the variables, and integrate both sides of this equation, we obtain the following expression. And this is the work-energy theorem, which states that the work done by the forces acting on a particle is equal to the change in its kinetic energy. Now, if we followed the same procedure in multiple dimensions, you get the following expression. And then summing these together, you'll get the work done by the forces acting on a particle in multiple dimensions is equal to the change in its kinetic energy. So here we have the squared magnitudes of the vectors, which is the same as the dot product between a vector and itself. A 5 kilo wooden crate is dragged along a surface which has these friction coefficients and released with an initial speed of 5 meters per second. And we're asked to calculate the maximum distance travelled by the crate. So to do that, we can use the work-kinetic energy theorem. So as we can see, the normal force and the force of weight are always perpendicular to the displacement vector. So they do no work, and only the force of kinetic friction does work. So that will be minus ffk multiplied by d max is equal to the change in kinetic energy, which is 1/2 by the mass of the wooden crate by the final speed squared minus the initial speed squared. So when the crate reaches a maximum distance, the final speed is 0, and the kinetic friction force is basically the kinetic friction coefficient by the normal force, which we can obtain by vertical equilibrium. So that would be the mass by gravity, and then by d max is equal to minus 1/2 mv0 squared. And if we cancel out m and substitute for the kinetic friction coefficient and the initial speed, then we can calculate d max, which is 3.2 meters.